Karen Bonafilio, Outer Realms, Inner Journeys. I think you're going to recognize who's on today.
Karen.
Hi, honey. It's Jennifer. I always love when she comes on. She's a wealth of information. And we were chit-chatting before we got on the video, and my gosh, you guys are in for a real treat today, guaranteed. For those of you that don't know Jennifer, let me tell you a little about her. She serves as an international spiritual evidential medium, a trance healer and channel, mentor, public speaker, transformational guide, writer, poet, and humanitarian. That's a nice resume. In addition to her one-on-one work with clients, she demonstrates mediumships for small groups and large audiences, spiritualistic churches, and for charitable causes, spreading the awareness that love and life are eternal. She is known for her accuracy, love, and compassion when connecting with spirit. And I can guarantee you I've experienced that with her. In addition, she is the host of Embracing Xfinity on the Sacred Spiral Network, an exploration of love, higher consciousness, and living life to its highest potential. And that's what we all want. We want to do the best we can with this body, with this soul while we are here. She has a passion for writing and creative expression. She is a regular contributor to Edify Your Soul magazine. She's also been featured in the LA Times and been guest on numerous podcasts. I'm not telling you my resume after reading that. Anyway, welcome, Jennifer. I'm so glad you're with us again today.
Thank you, Karen. I'm very happy to be back.
I'm honored to have you here. She's going to talk about transformation today. What is transformation? Well, get ready. You are going to find out. So first, in the context that we're going to be talking today, how would you define transformation?
Okay, that's the perfect opening start of like, what is transformation?
Yay!
Yeah, it's change. It's big change, and it's significant and profound change as well too. Now, we could say that we're always transforming. We have been since before we were even born. We're always changing. It's only our minds that may believe that we're the same that we were yesterday or the day before, but we actually are continuously changing, just as our cells are, and our thoughts do, and our moods do from moment to moment as well too. When in the context of spirituality, there are a lot of people who will have a change that is significant enough to really notice that something big is happening, and their lives will never really be the same anymore after that. So you may be continually transforming as your normal human self and personality, and then you get to a point, and then everything changes from there on after, and you start to awaken, spiritually awaken to other parts of yourself that you may not be aware of, like your spirit, the higher essence of you, or the higher self of you, or realizing there's much more than you previously thought, because you were so immersed in your adventure of humanness, which is quite an adventure. It is not
Lots of ups and
lacking.
downs. Oh
Indeed.
gosh. Yeah.
To be human is like being in a dream. And then when you spiritually awaken, you start to realize you're dreaming a little bit. So you start to realize there's another part that's dreaming the dream. And the more you go through this, and the deeper layers and the more advanced stages, you start to realize you're the dreamer and the dream kind of both at once. And hopefully will start to experience yourself as not separate from the higher essence of you, so to speak, too. And that may or may not happen, but that's a big shift too, is when you begin to realize you're not separate, not just know it intellectually because you've read it and you've been told it and you believe it, but actually experience it as a whole nother game changer on there too. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little more about how that would feel to experience that when you are interwoven with your higher self?
Yeah. So this happened for me. So one of the things that, and so chances are, if you're watching this podcast, if you're watching Karen's podcast here, you probably have already begun as some kind of spiritual awakening, and you're looking for answers, and you're curious, and you're trying to find out more and understand yourself more too. Unless you just stumbled upon this randomly, then who knows what this may actually be a trigger of an awakening or something for you too.
Yes.
So there are things that start that can trigger an awakening, they could just spontaneously happen. And so I'll answer your question in just a moment, but we can talk about kind of like what brings you into one and what it's like to kind of have that kind of change of self that you have to, because that's what happened to me. But sometimes people, they will decide to start meditating because they want to lower their stress.
Well,
They, like me, may decide, you start feeling the calling, you're psychic, you want to, explore healing or psychic abilities or mediumship because you've seen it on TV, or you had a reading, or something happened that made you want to take some kind of class that's spiritual in
yeah.
nature. It could be anything, right? Sometimes people, they will go into other kinds of mindfulness practices. And sometimes it's a big event, like there's an earthquake, there's
Mhm.
a death of a loved one,
Uh-huh.
you're in an accident, things like that. Political
Life-changing.
events, political events are big ones. Why? Because they challenge your belief systems of how you think things are and how you think things should be, and it puts you into what we would call an existential crisis. So this is kind of what the awakening is. You're awakening, you start to having this existential crisis. Who am I? You realize you're going to die
Oh.
someday, and
Well,
your soul wants you to know your soul wants
yeah,
you to know you, right? So we
yeah.
call it like the know thyself journey. It's some people call it the hero's journey.
Oh,
So
I
you're
love
becoming you're becoming a lot of people call it the hero's journey, like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, or Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Many, many, many movies out there that have, the hero, and there's always going to have to be an antagonist and supporting role characters. It's very much a model for life too, right? So,
this is
so,
true.
so that helps if we think about life as a stage, like Shakespeare said. It can make it not sting so bad sometimes when we get our feelings hurt and things like that. We go through hard things. It's like, oh yeah, we're playing a kind of a role here. But yeah, the political ones can be big things because they really can challenge your belief system, and there's fractures, things like, people get separated, and what you thought you knew can really stir things up for you as well too. So you could
Yeah.
definitely say this year in 2025, there's a lot of things happening on the world stage right now too, and people are scared and uncertain, and this is causing their feelings of security and safety to be very
Yes,
challenged right now. And so that's why
yes.
we're going to start seeing behaviors and actions on an individual and a group level that are hard to understand, or that we may wish, like, why aren't we not being more peaceful? Why aren't we not being more loving? Those questions start to come up, and they create a lot of angst. See you rubbing your nose there. So you're like, yeah, it's like an unconscious yes, yes. Right. And so I knew when COVID happened, I knew we were in for a massive awakening and a massive dark night of the soul, which we'll
Oh,
probably talk about in because
definitely.
because of lockdown, I was like, oh, people have nowhere to go to distract themselves from themselves. They're going to be home alone with their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions.
Good
And
point.
you can only distract yourself even at
Good
home for
point.
so long. So it becomes a very,
Mhm.
immersive internal experience. So I knew that was going to happen. I knew right off the bat, I was like, oh, here we go. We're never going to be the same
Wow. That
again.
was
It was
insightful.
yeah, it was a very intense time for many people, and it really feels like 2025 has been so crazy so far too. I mean, it's just there was no rest. It was like day one, January 1st, we're going full steam ahead. There's no break.
Here we
It's
go.
been energy after energy. We entered in the age of Aquarius and everything. People are talking about extraterrestrial visitation, things like that. So there's just a whole lot. And that's really hard for the psyche. And things start to kind of want to know, what does this all mean? How am I safe? Who am I? What am I? Where do I come from? All of these things.
Yeah,
Poof.
because everything shifts and everything changes and you question.
Constantly,
Yeah.
constantly, right? Yeah. Big shifts, big shifts. Oh, I got chills with that one too. Sometimes just having kids can spark a spiritual awakening, because that's such a profound experience of bringing life into this world. And
That's true.
it's going to trigger your old stuff from your own childhood too, when you're
Mhm.
having children of your own. And so that is a big thing too. And you have go through postpartum depression and things like that. So that the big, big shifts right there too. People could change a job, lose a job, and then that makes them question their identity, especially with men. Men identify usually more than women their worth, and their who they think they are
They're
with
their
their
worth.
job. And
Yes.
so if they lose
Mhm.
that or have to change that, or something happens, which happened on
Mhm.
COVID too. People lost their jobs. They couldn't work anymore because everything was closed, right?
Their
So that
identity.
their identity. So
Mhm.
when people are transforming who they think they are, that the identity starts to get very stripped away. All of those layers start to come off, right? And it's a very challenging process to go through. Sometimes people say, like, I feel like I'm dying. That's very dark night of the soul. You just feel like you're dying because what's happening is old structures of your psyche are starting to kind of dissolve because you can't hold the energy of beliefs that aren't resonating for you anymore. And so
Oh,
these
that's
parts
great.
of you, these sort of like mini identities that were sort of created as part of the
Yeah.
belief system they start to break down, but it feels very much like death. But death is just transformation. Death is change, right? It's
True.
just painful to go through. I
Um,
know. So if people
mhm.
are like, "Oh my God, yes, this is horrible. I'm in it right now." I'm like, I know. I feel you. I feel you. Too. If people get married or get divorced, things like that, those are huge changes as well.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
a really big one. You see a lot of that with people, in their, middle years, 40s, 50s, 60s, things like that. People start to question things. The kids are getting older, and and
Mhm.
then the sort of next phase of who am I? What do I want out of life? Those kinds of things can start to spark this exploration of self.
And I can just see the audience listening to this
Mm.
thinking, okay, I've been through that. Oh, I've been through that and that and
Yeah.
that and that. So been going through a transformation for a long time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still not landing where you want to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's continuous. There's no destination. People
Oh
sometimes
gosh.
people are seeking enlightenment, and that may
Mhm.
be the biggest cosmic joke of all because there's always more. There's always more. Like I said, I've experienced the understanding that I'm not a separate self, and even with that experience for me, which I will get to in a minute, is like I still sometimes am very immersed in my human self too. But that's how
Yeah.
my higher self wants it. So there's nothing I can do about it, but I know at the same time. So I'm holding two things at once. I'm holding my experience of being human, but I'm also in the background very aware that I'm spirit having this experience. It makes it a little bit easier, but not
Yeah.
always that much.
Sometimes we take a couple steps back and then we have to recover from that.
Yeah, but we go in cycles. And even, people who would be considered very advanced spiritual practitioners who have been through lots of transformation, they've been doing this stuff for years and years and years. Maybe they're a monk or whatever, like they've been living in a cave forever, right? They will tell you it all goes in cycles. They still feel hurt. They still have. So I think it's misjudgment to expect that enlightenment doesn't mean I'm never going to suffer. I'm never going to feel any pain. I'm never going to
Mhm.
have a problem. Nothing bad will ever happen to me. Really? And the reason why is as long as you're living this human experience, the higher self of
Yeah.
you is really what's in charge. What's going on in the
Mhm.
unconscious mind is what's really driving the bus, and your personality
Mhm.
is a servant. The only thing is the personality thinks it's the only one here
Right.
in the show right now too, right?
Yeah.
So the higher self could say, tweak, let's try it this way. Let's do this. And you're like, but so we start to understand that the cycles will repeat themselves after a while.
Oh god.
Not quite the same as patterns, like psychological patterns that we keep repeating and things like that. This is more like cycles of learning and growth and understanding. And I myself have said, really? I've already learned this. I've already done this again
They
a
wanna
year
make
ago,
sure.
2, 3, 4 ago, and I'm like, it's like learning the same thing, but in a different way with different characters and on a
Yep.
deeper level. And it's like, okay, okay, I
They
get
wanna
it. I
make
get
sure
it.
you got it.
I guess so. Or my higher self is just, this is the theme that my higher self came to really like want to, dig into for this lifetime as me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay too. And that's okay too. But once we kind of know how it works, it makes it a little bit better because then we can recover a
Mhm.
lot quicker. The beginning of this stuff, you're like on a tower this high, and the fall is hard. It's long and hard and high, right? And
True.
after a while, okay, it's like it's not quite as bad. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
Uh-huh.
you start getting so
Uh-huh.
if that gives you any hope, everybody who's watching and listening.
I just was kinda hoping I would get to a certain point where, yeah, this is it, I'm doing really good, but I think I'm gonna keep continuing until, that time for me to transcend this life is gonna happen. So I don't know when you finally get
Yeah.
to that point. I don't know.
I do think that you can get to a point where you feel much more peace and happiness on a regular basis than you probably did in the earlier stages of your life where everything seemed to be
Good.
uh so hard to understand all the time, if that makes sense,
Totally.
and usually people who go through spiritual awakenings are very sensitive and very empathic and compassionate too. And you will become much more so when you go through this. It's going to deepen you deeper than you ever thought you could go because it will take you into
I
the underworld of darkness sometimes
I understand.
to integrate the dual nature of this reality, the 3D, which is the dark and the light too. And you will go into a lot of immense darkness and then come back out into the light. And that will make your ability to be empathic with humanity on a much deeper level
Love it.
and
Uh-huh.
scale than it ever was. However, at the same time, you're able to still understand there's a cosmic order to things and there is a beauty to things and a meaning to things beyond which the personality understands. So you're able to say, know that there's suffering. I know that there's problems and I feel for them very deeply and I will do my best to make it better. And at the
Yes.
same time, I can still feel joy of being alive. I can still smile. I can still shine. I can still
Uh-huh.
appreciate all of my blessings and all of the immense beauty in this world too, holding the light, and then you give other people permission to do it too, right? So we do not, our suffering for other people's suffering doesn't make the other people suffer less. It just adds more suffering. So that
Yes.
it's being compassionate and empathic, and you do feel it. You feel the pain, but it's in a different kind of way that doesn't pull you into
Yeah.
despair. Does that make sense? It doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
and I just right now am seeing the Xfinity symbol
Yeah.
that we're just gonna keep
The
doing that.
infinite loop. It's Yep, I got chills too.
Yeah.
It's the infinite loop. You'll see me doing that a lot. I draw
Oh, do you? Well, I
all the
noticed
time.
that on your
Yeah.
notes, you do that. Now
Yeah.
I got it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it came to me
Yeah.
very early in this thing. So
You learn quickly in this lifetime.
I definitely went through kind of like a spirit boot camp. So when I started about 2016, I believe, taking classes, and I really did immerse myself. I was doing a lot of meditating, taking a lot of classes, very inquisitive. And that was a big year of change too, 2016. There was a big election year too. So quite a bit of changes along the world stage too. And so with all of that, it was the ripe and ready atmosphere for for a lot of people to awaken, especially for me. And so I went into it pretty fast and hard. And there was nobody to help me. There's
Yeah.
nobody. My teachers, God bless them. That wasn't maybe I just didn't share enough, but they weren't able to really help me with that at that time until a video showed up in my YouTube thing out of nowhere. I only listened to music and then all of a sudden this video comes up and I looked at it and I'm like, that's really weird. What's that? And I clicked on it and the guy was really describing what was going on in my mind, and then I knew I wasn't going crazy and I knew I wasn't a bad person or anything like that. I was just changing a lot.
Isn't that funny how spirit
Yeah.
works,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons if you're in a spiritual awakening is that you start getting those signs and synchronicities a lot more, and you're like,
Yes.
"That was a sign, that was a sign, I'm getting help,"
Mhm.
And spirit is also you and me.
Oh,
We
yeah.
are spirit.
We are.
And so I say that all the time, but I mean it. Like, really, like our spirit is spirit too. So our spirit is helping us. Like our higher self, our soul, it's kind of all the same
Yeah.
thing, just in how you look at it, is helping us too because we're one. It's like a coin with a top and a bottom, and one side knows everything, one side doesn't, but it's still the same coin.
And some people don't get that we are one.
Yeah.
They just they see it.
Right, right. And it's not wrong that's kind of
No.
how we made the game as spirit. Like we
Yes.
made the game that hard, and we made
Yes.
it so that we would experience being human on the full scale, full throttle being
Full
human.
spectrum.
Right.
Yes.
But some of us, a lot of us, are the plan was to also awaken from the
Yes.
dream. You could say that this is the dream and the other part is the awakening. It's,
Mm.
some people go, which is the dream? Is this the real world, or is the spirit world the dream world? Which one is it? And it's like you could say this is probably more of the dream than the spirit world is more of the waking part too. So we're
Yeah.
awakening from the dream to the
Mhm.
higher essence of us too.
Mhm.
But there enough things have to happen to get you to the point from knowing intellectually to experiencing it.
Experiencing it
Right.
and
Yeah.
really truly feeling and believing that also.
Right.
And you
Right.
just
Right.
know, you know.
Right, right. And so, real quick, other things that might trigger if you change your religion, like that can be a big one because that's a belief system you identify with. And if you're changing and you
Oh,
decide that doesn't work for you, say someone decides, they want to leave Catholicism or they want to leave Mormonism or some other religion. That was how they identified with themselves. It also gave them a tribal community, right? Which now
yep.
they are leaving and may get judged for from family, friends, and community. And
Oh,
that's what's
yeah.
happening right now. You're seeing a lot of like tribal community stuff happening
Mhm.
in the political scene and things like that. People wanting to take sides and doing that kind of stuff because they need to feel connected to their
Yeah.
tribe. Otherwise, they feel
Mhm.
very unsafe. And so that's when the mind starts going, right?
Yeah.
So we can understand why are we doing that. That's why it's very root chakra things happening too. So it's like if you're
Mhm.
looking at it from the outside in, you can kind of see, oh, okay, so I'm just trying to hold the space, try to hold the space as best I can, and but sometimes it can happen spontaneously. Sometimes people will use plant medicine. They may decide to go on
Mhm.
ayahuasca or something like that too, and that's just going to blast them open.
Have you done
Sometimes
that?
I have not
Have you
done
done
ayahuasca.
my kids both did it a couple times, and I heard they told me about it, I thought, "Not for me." I
Yeah.
grew up in the era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but I was not gonna do ayahuasca.
Yeah, that I think that might be a little bit more hardcore than some of the other ones too. There's a great documentary on Netflix called, I think it's called Change Your Mind or something like that, and it's all about the different kinds. I found that very illuminating and enlightening for me because I was brought up to thinking that all this stuff was going to fry your brain and make you jump out of a window. And then I find out, wow, there's actually significant scientific research that some of
Yeah.
these plants heal people from PTSD and trauma way
Yes.
better than
Mhm.
other drugs, which can be addictive and have a lot of side effects, or
Yes.
even years of therapy. But there was governmental stuff that happened that kind of wanted to, keep that at bay.
Hidden.
So yeah, I was just like, wow. So I would be much more open-minded to it now than I would have in the past. But it definitely can blast your senses open and trigger like a mass awakening because you're going to be seeing things that you never thought. Some people might have a visitation. So let's say they have a death of a loved one. That's gonna open them up to question the reality and to question their existence. They're questioning, they believe in heaven, but is it really there? All those things are going to start to go in their mind. And then maybe their spirit person visits them and starts knocking on their walls or things like that. And they're like, whoa, 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 what's happening here too? Like that's going to blast open like what you think is real and not real too.
I
It's
love all
very,
that.
oh yeah, I know I do
I
too, but it can
do.
it can
God,
scare people. It can scare people
reason.
too. I love it too, right? I know that's spirit, and it
I
can scare
do.
people also, though, right? And if they don't know what that is, they get scared and they may think like, "Is there something bad here?" All these, and that
That's
sets them
true.
off on a
Yeah.
wild goose chase and things, right?
Mhm.
People could get other unexplained phenomena, or maybe they think like ET encounter or something like that. Like there's all kinds of things. People have health problems, health issues, so that makes them question, when am I going
Yes.
to die? Am I going to die? What does this mean for me? How is this going to change my life? Those are all big things that can, poof, there you go.
Huge,
Right.
huge things.
So these all get us started, but then what happens like when you're kind of in it, what happens along the play though? So, but to get back to your original question, which was, what was that like for you?
We went on a journey, but I loved it.
I know, right? I didn't lose you. So I'm very mercurial. So fortunately I can try to keep track best I can because I'm in my logical mind. So that helps. when I'm really connected to spirit, hi puppy. When I'm really connected to spirit, I lose my thinking a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, I know, right? We're having so much fun.
Stop, Maddie. Stop. She's
Well,
feeling our energy.
yeah, yeah, the excitement. I know you're giggling, but also you're feeling cold, so there's probably
Oh god,
spirit
yes,
around
the
you. And so
chill here.
your puppy's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, mom, do you see what I see? See,
I
like, are
wish
you
I
seeing what
did.
I'm seeing?" I know, right?
Yeah.
Because they're so sensitive, right? Too. So I had this awakening at 2016. I went through Dark Night of the Soul, which can stop and start and stop and start. You have
I
little
love
breaks in between, right? And we'll do that. We'll talk about that's a whole separate little beauty container we can do too, because I know a lot of people probably need help with that, help understanding that too. But when I got into COVID, also, I was in more what I would say is the more advanced stages, kind of going into more of a Kundalini type of awakening, where your whole energetic system starts to rearrange and your consciousness gets much more expanded. So the first part is kind of like a cleaning out, or I don't even like using that word. I like to use delicate, gentle words. It's a maturing of your ego, a refining of your ego. Some people call it a purification process. I like that word, and then sometimes I don't. But whatever was not used starts to go
right?
away. It starts to shed.
Oh,
Whatever was not really used, in which most of us is not us, right? It's
uh-huh.
temporary, and it's ever changing and transforming. But as we got into COVID, right prior to COVID too, I remember I really started feeling this, what I would call a holy longing, not in a religious sense of the word holy, but in a very spiritual. I started feeling this holy longing to feel and know God even more. The
Yeah. Yeah.
first part
Yeah.
was younger. I'll go back to like the 2016, 2017. I remember walking my dogs and I stopped and I was like, I want to know more about love than I already know. Like, I want to know more than like the kinds of love that I was already aware of with different
Mhm.
relationships and things like that. And I could see that it was like a diamond, and there was all these facets of the diamond, and those are all different ways to know love, right?
Love. Yeah. It's a
And
beautiful analogy.
yeah, so that was like one of those first kind of big moments that I could pinpoint. And then came this holy longing of feeling this desire and this, like, I want to know God more. I want to feel closer to God, but not in the
Mhm.
religious way, in the spiritual and the very personal
Spiritual.
way. And I was already having some of the Kundalini symptoms as well, which is like the energetic changes and things like that. And then COVID hit, and I had just started having a lot of doors opening and plans laid out, and all of that got poof, was
Boom.
gone,
Mhm.
and then I had to figure out how to do Zoom like everybody else did, right? And there was gifts in that because we're all international now. We weren't like that before. We were just printing flyers out,
Yeah.
on the copy machine and doing it very old school. Right now we're all like
Yeah.
tech savvy with things. Like, it's amazing what's happened, right? The gifts. We couldn't be international before COVID, and because of Zoom and because of all of that, now we are.
Now we can.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's a
Mhm.
whole nother thing. So there was gifts. There's always a gift. I learned
Mhm.
that from the guide of one of my teachers when
Oh,
he was
that's
in
great.
trance. It's like having a baby, and there's always a gift at the end. The birth process is very painful and existential. And then you give birth and you have this baby, and that's your gift at the end, right? Too. So that's why I always say you
I
better
love
make it
that.
a good one. My gift better be big, and I want it because of what I just went through. That's my human self, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was
I'm
feeling this
getting
whole,
so many nuggets from you. So
yeah,
so much
yeah.
good
Thank you.
information.
Thank you. I love your nails, by the way. They're so cute with the different
I got
colors. I
those
know
done today.
it's so cute. I love it. I love it. And
Thank you.
so I started feeling this, like, this holy longing, and then COVID hit, and so we all kind of went through a little bit of a hibernation period too. What I also didn't know at the time was that I was anemic, and I didn't know it. I was really anemic, like severely, dangerously anemic, and I was that way
Uh-oh.
for a while without knowing it. And so this kind of compounded my experience, or added to my experience too, because I was lacking in oxygen too. So I was literally like slowly dying. So I like to call that like my living near death experience that I had.
Wow.
Now I would just say, like, but I don't, like, it may not be death in the way that other people would say, you have no
People.
heartbeat, you have no brain, but I would say, like, I died because it was such a
Mhm.
significant change in my life, and there's parts I can't even remember anymore too. But um through that process in the fall of 2020, really started getting blasted open. My consciousness was just streaming massive amounts of information. I wish I would have hit the record button, because I could have just said all kinds of stuff
Mhm.
and it's all gone now. But I was just streaming information, having all these kinds of experiences in my psychic reality. Some of them are very scary and dark. And I say that because some people don't want to talk about that because it's very private and it's very personal too. So I don't go into details of it, but lots of people are going through that and then they don't understand. They think, am I going crazy? Is something dark coming after me? Is this,
Right.
something evil? That kind of is nothing like that. It's very much like a shamanic initiation where you kind of the shamans, they go into the underworld and they experience the darkness on different levels. It's a very spiritual thing, but it's illusion and it's all happening via your higher self. So nothing's hurting you or harming you. It's all teaching you things, but you're having this psychic illusionary process, but it's for a reason. It's for a reason because you're learning to actually integrate and transcend and understand duality itself, which is the light and the dark and everything in between. We came here for that.
So people will experience both. Would that be correct in saying of the lightness
Yeah.
and the darkness as they go through
Yeah.
the transformation? Okay, so
Absolutely.
not to
Especially
be
in, yeah, don't
surprised
be
or
scared.
scared.
Yeah, bad spirits aren't after you, nothing like that. This is all happening within your own psychic realm and your own higher self is orchestrating this all for you to have these experiences that you may not even otherwise get while you're here on this planet. Maybe some in another country, maybe, but not,
Yeah.
and so it's all going to be very personalized for you too. And I had done everything right, like keeping my channel clean, meditating, all this kind of stuff. I had done all of that, and I am pure love, right? Anything else
Yes,
is an illusion. I
yes,
am, and I
yes,
always have been.
yes, yes.
And so, and I know this, and that this I know, this is the thing I've been able to keep with me, even though like my life is still very human these days, and I have my work is all very spiritual, but I still
Mhm.
have a personality. I'm still Jennifer, and I go through stuff that makes me learn and grow like everybody else,
Mhm.
right? Otherwise, would you even want to connect with me? I would just be this kind of like, I don't know. It might be fun for a minute, for a hot minute, right? But it's
Yeah.
like we connect through heart, we connect through
Yeah.
emotion, we connect
Yes,
through
yes,
experience. We're not
yes.
robotic people here,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And so so anyways, um and through that process, so I'm in this really high stage of awakening and my health is poor and I don't know it. So I'm physically dying and spiritually dying at the same time, right? But through that experience, what I was experiencing in my
Oh,
mind and what I was in my communications with
yes.
spirit too it was just like boom, there is no me. And then the wall knocked and I was like,
Wow.
there is only the I. There is no separate me from the I. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Even though
yes,
we use those words for context, right?
yes.
And that was when I knew. I knew I'm channeling my reality. Every version of me, every archetype of me, my moods and emotions and all this, it is connected to the physical, but that's spiritual too. It's all spiritual. I'm channeling my reality as me. My higher self is living life as me, calling her Jennifer.
I think that's it's beautiful and fabulous.
It is. It is. I do wish sometimes I could feel that way like all the time and not sometimes be so immersed in human life. I admit it because it hurts just like it hurts everybody else. But at least I can hold on to that knowing I have that in me. So
Right.
no matter what comes at me, I know
Mhm.
like I'm indestructible because I'm spirit. I'm love.
Right.
So
Right.
anything outside that may feel negative or that I don't like or
Mhm.
wish were different, it's not true. I know I'm love, right? I know you are love. And I know that
We all are love.
consciousness is love, but we're here playing this game. We're here playing the duality game too. And that's not to be taken lightly. So we decide to live it well. We decide to, if we're going to be here, let's really be here. Let's make it the best. That's
The best we can.
the little bit of control we actually have is that
Mhm.
decision to live, right? And that's what dying made for me. That was the gift of dying, was wanting to live.
I so relate to that. I
Yeah.
so relate to that. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it drives us. We are pure love. We're beauty. We're
Whew.
hope. we're grace, we're compassion, we're all of those things. Everything else is experience.
Right. Jennifer, everything you're saying just makes so much sense. It's so wonderful. And I'm
Thank
looking
you.
back at myself in my life and what's happened with me and what happened when everyone died in my life. Everything just hits home. It really does.
That's
I think,
huge.
well,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
not be the same person. I mean, you can't not
Oh, no.
change when
No.
you have multiple passings away. And the
Yeah.
older we get, the more people are going to pass away, and the more that's going to make us question our reality and our existence. And
I
yeah,
know. I just know, I'm happy when people, transcend, but it kills me because I'm sad because I don't get to be and see with them. So it's difficult.
yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my doggies today. Jennifer, we've talked before. They have not been like this.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I
crazy.
think the energy is pretty active because
It's really
what
active.
we're talking about is really buzzy. We were talking about trance healing last time, and that's a much more kind of subdued experience.
Yeah.
Where this is a more mentally buzzy kind of experience that we're into right now. And also because I do feel like spirit world is like we kind of need this right now. So the timing of this worked out really well. We didn't all know
Yes.
quite,
Yes.
when we time this stuff, we didn't all know like things were gonna get like, exponentially more I'll just say more active. I'm trying to and
That's a nice way of putting it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. People are very scared right now. I would say be careful not to get too pulled into the drama of it all. And it doesn't mean you don't care. I
Right.
care
Right.
significantly for a
Yes.
lot of reasons too. But if you get pulled into it too
Yeah.
much, it's going to make you feel very dark, very sad, very scared. And it's
Yes.
like, is that what you want? Like, it's going to pull your frequency pretty down, pretty low, and you're going to be feeling angry and all this stuff. Not that those emotions are wrong, but this is just my suggestion for maintaining your peace because we need to be healing our nervous systems. We need to be staying as calm as we can. We have a right to feel happy no matter what's happening around us. We have a right to our joy. If you've earned that
Yeah.
joy, for God's
Mhm.
sake, and you have a right to hold
Mhm.
that.
Yes.
And would we be a better gift and help to the world if we were maintaining that frequency of love and joy and hope for people and holding people and and giving people smiles and letting them reminding them the sun is still shining outside, the birds are
Yeah.
singing,
Mm.
flowers are
Mhm.
flowering, there's
Yeah.
beauty. We are blessed, exponentially, infinitely blessed in so many ways. If we shift our awareness to our blessings and what we're grateful for, it's really hard to stay mad and
Yeah.
be mad at other people, because
Yes.
belief systems are going to change. They are not knowings. They are not even beyond knowing. I call cannot deny because what we know can change too. And there's just a few things that are in the cannot deny category, right? Right? Too. But people's belief systems will change when they change, and it's like everybody's journey is their journey too. And we try to hold
Yeah.
space for that too. So I can hold love for people that have different belief system things. I can hold love for all of them too, even if I don't agree with them too. So I'm
Right.
able to like hold
Mhm.
that space for them too. I know
Yeah.
it's not always easy, but we're all getting there. We're all getting there. So it's good to just keep practicing that the best we can. And so if we stay in the perception and the frequency of oneness, there is a micro macro. So whatever we're holding on the inside of us will start to shift and change on the outside of us. So the change is really inside us.
Inside. Yeah.
We can change inside of us will be reflected outside of us. So the more we get to a critical mass of people internally integrating their psyches, their consciousness, becoming more
Mm.
aware, less in the duality, less in the illusions of old versions of self, right?
Mhm.
The more
Mhm.
people that do that, the collective has to shift, right? It's just waiting for that like critical mass to happen.
Yeah.
And so, but we're getting there. We really are.
We are.
But
We
right now,
are.
the tower is falling, right?
Yes.
We got it. Then
Uh-huh.
we're going to have to rebuild it better,
Yeah.
higher, bigger, more sparkles, as I like to say. That said, Spirit World has also told me they're like, it's nothing new to be going through major, stuff like this. We've been having wars for centuries. It's just people are like, now, like, shouldn't we know better by now?
Yes, exactly.
You would think, right? But
Mhm.
so we don't have the answers to everything, but they will come. They will come. In the meantime, we need to, I think, my suggestion is just be the best person you can be, maintain your peace, and love each other like fierce radical love, like
Yes.
tell people you love them, hold on to the people that you love, because you just don't know. You've had a lot of people in your life that have passed on
Mhm.
to spirit world. So you
Uh-huh.
have the understanding. I don't know what's going to happen
Mhm.
tomorrow. I don't know if that person I love is going to be there tomorrow or not. So you
Exactly.
hold
Exactly.
that
Mm,
love inside of you. I can feel it. It emanates
mhm,
from you too.
mhm. And I
Too.
think that something that holds people back
Mhm.
too is the inability to be vulnerable, because that you have to be really brave to be able to share all of that about you. And
Yeah.
that's huge though, because you get a more heart to heart connection when you're able to do that.
Yeah.
My
That is
gosh.
what you just said, Karen, is so huge. And your dog's like, yes, yes, yes.
I fed them and
I
everything.
know. I love it. I love it. But it's like it's everything is on time too. And I was teaching class last night, and one of the students starts talking about a dog. And at the very same time, my own dog starts barking and
Start
looking out the
barking.
window. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. It was
Okay,
validation for
good.
the students, right? It was validation. So super cool. But oh, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say,
We're gonna have to wrap up too, so I
okay.
wanna make sure we cover Manny, please,
Yeah.
please,
So,
please, Manny.
what I also wanted to tell people that they may be experiencing too is they might start getting a lot of those signs and synchronicities, the numbers on the clock, the license plates, the birds and the bees, all of these kinds of stuff will start to happening. Their own psychic things,
Oh,
psychic senses will start opening up, and they're like,
mhm.
I'm hearing things. Am I delusional? Do I need to be on medication? Things like that too.
I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to
it's
laugh at
true.
that.
People hear spirit and then they think they may be going crazy, or they may be thinking something psychiatric is happening too, right? So
Yeah,
spiritual awakenings can be very scary for people because they're not used to feeling and hearing those things
yes, this is
too.
true.
So that can happen too. And your life starts falling apart and rearranging. So all of that can happen. And then the dark night of the soul, we can talk more about that later. But what I
We
wanted to
do
get
have to talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah, and another thing, what I wanted to get to is what you said, maybe that's a good way for us to close it up, Karen, as you talked about the vulnerability too. So
Yes,
the very core of us is vulnerable. We have a very human primal need to have connection and to feel belonging with each other. And all of the stuff you see people doing that looks to be not nice is all meant to try to protect that vulnerability too. And
yes.
that's why coming into being vulnerable is so terrifying, yet so courageous, the hero's journey, right? So to become the
Uh-huh,
hero in your own life
uh-huh.
is to expose yourself. It's to expose your raw human vulnerability. And it's not easy to do because our protectors want so hard to protect us, but sometimes at the expense of our growth.
This is true. And I
Yeah.
will also say that once you reach that state where you're vulnerable and you're in there, you will never change. That's how you will always
Yeah.
live your life and come from that. And it
Yeah.
changes everything when you do that.
Yeah. It really does.
It does. It really does.
And with that, that's where like we start to really, really learn what like self-love is all about too,
Yeah.
through open-hearted vulnerability, all that love that we've been giving out, trying to get our needs met. We realize we also have, and that's a beautiful thing. It's human.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Mhm.
thing. But we also realize, well, like we can do that for us too. I can sing
Mhm.
myself a love song. I can buy myself some flowers, I can do those things for myself too. I,
Yeah.
I can love myself, radically, and I can love you radically too. And that takes courageous vulnerability to be able to do that, to look at yourself, to look inside, to do the internal work. But the payoff is huge.
It's huge. It
It's
is huge.
huge.
Mhm.
That's your ticket to freedom. True freedom is
Mhm.
going into the raw, vulnerable self of you and allowing it to be exposed. And that is so darned scary. But the payoff is the gift at the end. It's the rebirth.
It is. It is. I so agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, Jennifer, I
I
am
know.
taking notes and nuggets away from this. It's just been beautiful.
I feel blessed. I feel blessed to spend this time with you, Karen. And we're
Oh,
gonna be like BFFs after
that's
after these
fine.
podcasts.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. And I've
I
been
know,
looking
right?
forward to having you
I
back
know.
too. I want Dark
Yeah.
Night of the Soul.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think that's something that like people need a lot of help with too, because they don't
Yes.
understand what's happening. So that's a good thing that we can kind of get into, and anything we may have like not quite gotten to here, we could touch base there as well too.
Yeah, and then they've got a wonderful taste of everything with this video. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
absolutely
I think
wonderful.
it'll be really helpful for people to, because people, they just like, what's happening to me? I don't understand. It's really scary. And so when you have like, "Oh, okay, that person's like describing me right now. Okay,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
normal. This happens." Oh, you can take a big deep breath.
and then sometimes you don't have anybody to use as a sounding board to talk about what's going on with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a little nice perk too if you have someone kinda on the same wavelength as you.
yeah. I've had a lot of people come up to me and they go, "You're going to think this is really weird, Jennifer." And I go, "No,
Actually,
I'm not going to think it's weird." And then they tell me, and I'm like, "That's chicken feed to weird."
so I'm gonna tell you something after we say goodbye to everybody, and then, get your thoughts on it.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you
Something that
so
happened. So
much.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, and, God, always a pleasure and always a
Okay.
blessing,
For
so
you
thank
as
you.
well. And God bless everybody who's watching and
Okay.
viewing. And thank you for the time. Thank you for
Oh
watching,
my gosh.
everybody.
Thank you.